All right. On this garlic marketing show, we're going to talk about how to turn a company around. Stuart here at Stuart, say hi. Stuart has grown multiple companies, turned them around. We're gonna have a story, a massive success story of turning around a losing company to making $400,000 to $500,000 a month. I believe he said he's going to talk about how he's helped many companies, especially superstar companies that are good, go to great. His unique methodology and the key to it all on this garlic marketing show. But don't forget, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. We'll talk about the importance today about knowing your customer story. If you want to find your best customer stories, those seven-figure stories and those seven-figure problems that you solve, go to videocasestory.com/finder, where we'll help you find that seven-figure story and come up with a plan to market with it. All right, let's get started.
My name is Gino Wickman. I was introduced to Ian, and that's what brought me into this video world and got me embracing this video world. And Ian did exactly what I hoped. He got me really comfortable with putting videos out to the world and having a great strategy around putting videos out to the world, because there's so much more than just shooting a video. And so the way that he positions those videos, optimizes those videos, he's done a great job.
All right. Stuart's coming from sunny Scottsdale. I'm in Orlando. Cool today, but we're enjoying it. So all you people in the snowy weather,
Exactly. We're in our long sleeves in our 60, 70 degree weather.
Well, and we'll talk about coaching today, but sir, you have an awesome background. And you had a history of turning around a few companies in some cold places. We were talking about before Detroit. But before we get started with that, just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So I'm a business growth coach. I work with organizations, small mid-market companies and nonprofits that have a leader that's growth minded, that want to grow, yes, in revenue, but also in impact of scope or whatever they're doing to improve lives internally and those they're serving.
Love that. What was the moment you decided to become a coach?
Yeah, it's interesting. So about 4 years ago, I had started and founded an industrial tech company, grew it nicely. And about 4 years ago, I sold that to my partner. I was just ready to move on, do other things, really fulfill my purpose. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wasn't sure if I was going to start another company, become a hired CEO, go back to the nonprofit world that I had been in at one time. And I've always used executive coaches. I've been in peer groups like Vistage, and I always did some coaching on the side. And just as I was figuring out, different people I knew that had companies, had nonprofits, started talking to me, asking if I could coach and help them. Started doing it, remembered how much I love it. I'm pretty darn good at it. So I decided I'm going to make a full effort, and this is going to be take my part-time firm, Impact Group, and make it my full-time endeavor. Spent a year getting some really powerful certifications. And now I'm here, loving what I'm doing, loving helping people grow their team, companies, and lives.
Love that. And so tell me about the company in Detroit that you turned around.
Yeah. So it was actually a nonprofit, but they were significantly driven by earned revenue. I was brought in as the COO in that case, as part of the leadership team, and really overseeing all things earned revenue and all things people. So I was part of creating the culture, doing the whole people side of the turnaround and driving revenue. And we had about 150,000 square foot part of the recreation complex tennis facility that was losing 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a year. And this is a while ago, not fulfilling anything. So it wasn't brilliant to figure out, boy, we should probably change this. But Detroit's hockey town, and I've never played hockey in my life. I don't know what icing is, etc. But I figured this is hockey town. This is part of our recreation fitness complex. Let's see what out there. And there was a inline hockey facility less than a mile away. I went to visit them. Parking lot was packed. People were parked up on the grass and on the hill.
Outside.
I walked in and the place was packed, but they were doing everything. It was dingy. It was packed, but dingy. They were doing laser tag and hockey and soccer and parties. And I walked out knowing what we were going to do. We were going to go into the inline hockey business, compete them, beat them at it. So I found some investors, some people that knew hockey, and we said, we're going to remodel this whole facility and make it only about hockey, from lights to rinks to locker rooms, to reception, to location of the park lot. So it is just the most awesome, you talked about customers, awesome hockey experience for everybody coming in. We actually recruited and took their GM, who was a great person to know how to run things, brought them over. And within a year, we're profitable. And within a little over 2 years, they were out of business and we were rocking and rolling. And it really was that having a clear strategy, having really defined parameters and goals, and really identifying what that hockey customer, adult, kid, family would want. And how do we create a facility, a program, and an experience that they're going to want to be with us. And to my knowledge, they're still rocking and rolling it.
That's, I love that because I love the focus, but what you said there at the end, focusing on knowing that person, right? Knowing the people and making it the best thing for them. And I think, so often I see it would, like, people thinking, I think the instinct is, hey, we're gonna have more things for more people. And, we've got this big facility, let's do 20 different things in it. Um, how hard was that decision to say no to that and get focused on this one customer?
For me, it was pretty easy in conceptually, but absolutely as we were doing it, we were building business models and different ideas or thoughts would come in. Both when we're still in construction and planning phases, and then even once we were operating, because there are all these shiny objects that are out there
Yeah.
that would have been really cool to chase and probably would have brought in some meaningful revenue. And that's really, the haired object of the theories of don't chase shiny objects, or the 80-20 rule, and getting that noise out there and really having clarity of what your midterm, long-term goals are, who your audience is. So it was really for me and the team I built around that, for us to always come back when we were going to have that shiny object and really test into what our core business, our core customer was. And by doing that and having really clear vision, those answers actually become much easier. That discipline of saying no.
Yeah. I mean, like I said at the beginning, our whole business is based on at videokstory.com. It's like really getting to understand the customer and it's amazing how it seems so straightforward, but so few companies do that.
Yeah.
What, when you coach people now, how do you install that in there?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. So a lot of it is bringing back my experiences from my roles as CEO and founder and all that good stuff in the business world. And I also spent over a year before I full-time launched my coaching firm getting certified in a platform called Metronomics, which provides great methodology, and it works. Companies see 30, 40, 50% compounding year-over-year growth. But fundamentally, what I do when I'm working with a company or a nonprofit is we start on the people side. What are your core functions? What's it going to take to be good at what you're at today? And then foundationally, real clarity on purpose, why you exist. And that's important whether you're a for-profit or nonprofit. Why do you exist? What are those values? How are you going to behave internally, externally with your customer? And then we create what's called a BHAG. That's from Colin's work, Good to Great, which is that big, hairy, audacious goal that whatever long-term is for you, 10, 20, 30 years, that North Star. And I like to say it's not something you're chasing. It's this super powerful magnet that's pulling you, but with great clarity. In other words, back in the day when Nike was a tiny startup and Adidas was the powerhouse, Nike's BHAG was to crush Adidas. And everything they did from a marketing to product development was focusing how they were going to take Adidas. And they clearly did. And I can share Amazon. So it's really having that clear definition that's articulated, can cascade throughout the whole company of where you're going to be, and then chopping it up into 3-year goals and really clear objectives. And one of the most important things we do when we come to a 1-year plan is, and so far never failed, any company, any nonprofit I'm working for, they actually have number one priority for that year. There's going to be some sub priorities, but what's that most important thing we need to focus on and accomplish this year? So it's really bringing everything into a clear focus. And that's with bigger companies, with multi-divisions, it really creating that clarity of thinking. So it's a process and getting that leadership team aligned and every quarter checking in and measuring and adjusting, that you always know where you want to go, how you're doing and getting there, and making those adjustments, but having clarity on purpose, values, and what that number one priority is and where you're going to be taking that company.
And so, can you give me an example of a company you've worked with since you've been
Yeah,
coaching that you've done this?
absolutely. I'll share. Let me share. It's actually a nonprofit we worked with, and we start out with a 2-day kickoff where we lay all these foundational things. And they had a major initiative. They had put a lot of manpower in, a lot of resources, including financial. And as we clarified what that BHAG was, where they wanted to go, where they had gaps in core functions, they really needed to invest in those to grow their revenue, impact their streams and their service delivery. And through that whole clarification process, they actually had a major endeavor they were working on for a couple of years that they pulled the plug on. They canceled it, shifted all those resources, and they, in that following year, had significant growth of revenue and significant impact on the constituents they were serving. A company, one of the things we do is we look at functions, and rather than org charts, titles, and all that, but key functions to drive that organization. And then in the work with them, we look at A players. We've all heard the story about A players in that upper right quadrant where they're high culture, high performance. Because all the work I do is with leadership team and founder, CEO, owner. It's easy for me to kind of get that lens on it. And through the work we do in alignment, it was really clear one of his senior players was not the right one. As a coach, I'll never tell anybody you have to fire anybody. It's not my role, but it became so clear they made a significant adjustment that readjusted to what functions they really had to nail. And not only did their culture greatly improve, but that was a big piece of their revenue growth for that year as well.
Interesting, interesting. And when how did that? When did they know that that was the right move? And also, when was what were the first successes that they saw because of all this coaching that you did?
It's different with every organization, every company that I work with. What I always say, that first year is a foundational year. It's when we're going to really create that vision, that foundation. Within that year, they will have an A player leadership team, which really is the key to growth. There so far has never not been either been a gap or someone on there that might be wonderful people, smart people, but they really, once you define those functions, what you need, don't fit it. So that first year, it's making sure they have a solid leadership team, getting them into a cadence of execution and quarterly adjustments. So that first year, they will feel better. They'll be working a lot less, spinning their wheels a lot less, and we'll have some growth. Starting in year 2 is where that real significant growth starts to happen, because they have 100% or pretty close to 100% A player leadership team. They have really clarity on where they're going, the strategy to get there. They've gotten their execution cadence down. They understand their KPI or their OKR, whichever system they want to use. Everything is tracking, and it really just becomes a methodical process. And then we dive in and adjust. And depending where they're at, we'll start mapping out the market and their attributions and their ideal core customer, or spend more time on people. So because we're continuously improving all 4 of those systems, people, cash, strategy, and execution, the foundation gets laid in year 1. They begin making both. And usually in year 2 is where you start seeing significant growth in your business.
Yeah. I mean, and it takes time. Everyone's, I think this is an important thing for people to remember too, is because everyone wants, right? They want it all turned around in 60 days, don't they?
Including me.
There's people selling that, and that's why you keep starting over every 60 days with a new system.
Yeah, I'm real clear when I'm taking on a new organization, new company, that I'm not a miracle worker. Like someone says, "Oh, I want to exit in 1 year and sell my company," I tell them I'm not your guy. I'm not a miracle worker. I can make improvements. I'm not going to create this miracle in a year. It takes a while to get everything rolling in the right direction, the flywheel moving, and getting all those elements, your people, strategy, execution, and cash, really going. So I really look for clients. Yes, they're at some stage of growth. Maybe they're stalling, they're in pain. What got them here is definitely not going to get them there. They don't have the right people. They never really even had an aligned strategy. They don't know how to execute. Things in their market changed. And who have that drive and that desire for quick growth, but understand it's going to take a period of time to really lay the foundation and get all that work going. And if you commit to that and you have a discipline around it, absolutely that growth can happen.
It's fantastic. And it's foundation, it's fundamentals, it's change. It takes time. And so when we're looking at this, and there's a lot of people out there who, we mentioned Jim Collins, we mentioned OKRs, KPIs. There's a lot of different coaching methodologies. What would you say is the biggest difference with yours?
Yeah, a couple things. I appreciate you asking that. So one thing with Metronomics is that we don't focus on just execution. A lot of people, at least in the Southwest, know EOS, which is an execution system. It's good. I have friends that have used it in their company. They started nailing execution. They saw growth. However, execution is one piece. And if you're solely focusing on execution, other pieces of the puzzle are going to fall out. So one of the unique things about Metronomics is we're focusing on all the systems that impact your company. A heavy work on the people side of it, culture, values, players, alignment, trust. At the same time, we're making sure you know where you're going and you have a 3-year and a 1-year strategy. At the same time, we're doing execution. If they're on EOS, we can plug EOS right into it. And some really unique to Metronomics work around cash. It's surprising how many good companies with solid, smart leadership teams, they know their profit. They might know their ARR or MRR. You ask them what their cash goal is, they don't have one. You ask them how much cash they have in the bank. The CFO hopefully has a good idea. The CEOs in the ballpark. The rest of them have no idea. And cash is the blood. It is the fuel of your.
I never heard that before. I didn't know that. I'm like,
yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm not talking. I've done this exercise and then gone through the process with really sharp people and sharp leadership teams, and their companies, 26 million, and they're doing well. But there's not that culture and that dynamic of really understanding what brings cash in truly. What are those different functions? What preserves cash within? So we do a lot of work. So a unique thing is that we're working on all these 4 systems, if you will, at once. And while there is a cadence to the work I do, how often I meet with the founder, how often the whole executive leadership team gets together and adjusts and moves forward the planning, how I coach and the way we use Metronomics really meet that company where they're at, where their opportunities are at, and we'll pull different tools arrows out of the quiver based on where they're at, where it's not a structured, rigid, where every company, every stage the same. And lastly, I'd say it's built so that all of us coaches can add our own stuff to it. I have elements that I bring from my own experience, from other education. I love 10X is Easier Than 2X by Sullivan and Hardy. Great book. Anybody that wants to grow their personal life or their business, highly recommend it. I built a module out of that I can plug into what I do. So it's very adaptable, very flexible, and not industry specific. And lastly, I'd say that we really come into it as coaches, not consultants. And in that year certification process, spend a lot of time honing our skill set as coaches, helping you uncover your blind spot, helping guide you in process and service, not telling you what to do, getting you where you and your team can see it and have a great process and trust and dialogue to get where you got to get.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so, what's the signal that someone should be talking to you?
A few. One is if you're talking to someone or someone out there that's listening to this describes them, that, I say I work with companies, 5 to 50 million wanting to grow over 100 million. Those are loose wires, but in concept, someone that really is looking for significant growth. Maybe they want to exit in 3, 5, 7, 10 years. Maybe they want to build legacy for their family. Maybe they just want to grow, and by growing, they can employ more people and treat their employees great and service more customers, but they have a major growth mindset is the fundamental number one thing. And ideally, they have a leadership team of at least 3 people, and that they're most likely at some stage of growth where they're stalling or struggling. A lot of it happens post-startup. You got a decent founder, decent founders, decent product or service, and you're willing to just grind and grind and grind, you're going to get to 2 million, 5 million, 3 million, all depending what you're doing. And typically what you then see is either this or this, and they just get stuck at whatever that number is, because it's each stage of growth requires different type of people, different strategies, different process. So a lot of times maybe they finish that startup mode and now they're stalling, or they've gone from 10 head count to 50 head count, or they were just servicing their metro area, now they want to go regional or national. There's different aspects of either the pain of the stages of growth or desire for other parts of growth, and that they're open-minded, they love learning. My favorite client is the person, the guy or gal that every book I have on my shelf, they have on their shelf, and they've read them twice. That they embrace coaching and learning, understand the power it has. Because last little piece on this, a lot of people. I just had this conversation with a prospect yesterday or the day before, and he was saying, about, because he's been pretty successful. Oh, kind of that mindset. Coaching's for when you're struggling or you're not doing well. And I like the analogy of, like, think of the highest level ice skater, elite athlete, college team, pro team, where you have the upper 1/1,000,000th of 1% from a skill set and mindset. What do they all have? Multiple coaches. So I can do my best work, and it's so fulfilling when I'm working with a superstar CEO and owner, founder, and a superstar team, because then they're going to embrace, they're going to open, they're going to use their brilliance, their knowledge of the industry, along with process systems, the gaps that I help them uncover, the blind spots I help them uncover, and that's when that soaring really, really happens.
I love it. I love it. Well, we'll put a link to your website down below it, and you can say it, because I might say the letters wrong.
You want me to say it?
Yes.
It's www.impgp.com, like impact, IMP, GP, like group.com.
Yeah. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's linked below. Obviously, you can Google him. We'll put a link to your LinkedIn as well. And Stuart, thank you so much for being on. One last question.
Sure.
Tell me about the paintings in the background.
Oh, I love it. That's nothing against people that have fake back. I love it because I like people seeing me. That actually, everything but the bottom one, that's actually a picture. Those are from my daughter, who's now a physical therapist, living in New York City with her fiance, getting married this May. That's my proud daddy comment. She is an artist, and that's when she was probably 8. Those are just some of the pictures she painted, and I hope one day she doesn't think she's too cool and she goes back to art. She really has a lot of talent. That bottom was actually a picture of me and my son at his bar mitzvah in Israel.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, sir, thank you so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show and sharing your amazing stories.
Thank you, Ian. It's been an honor and a pleasure, my friend.
Awesome. And thank you all for taking Stuart on your journey. It's been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.